hopefully this demo is very short because everything's just working.
What? Everything just works?
Yeah. On my machine it does. Okay, so here I have a few buffer extracts from, I think it's yesterday. Istvan made them for me, so I haven't checked the content that thoroughly. And to be sure, I have also just written down my curl commands to post them to the system running on my machine. And in theory, I should just upload it, and they should be available on the EDR API and the MQTT queues instantly. Guess we'll find out if that works. Oh, it says it works. Ah, yeah, it does work. Okay, so Istvan has written a parser for the buffer to convert it to our JSON format, which is let's call it GeoJSON-like, just with a some more fields, and you can. I think everyone can reach this now if you go to
MeteoGate observations.
I'll fix it. This is for the EDR. Can anyone read that? I'll just post it in the chat. It's easier for everyone, right? Well, you won't see the URL anyways. Chat. There is chat.
Better. You see this?
Okay. This is very interesting if you look at. It's just this is all the raw data from the locations endpoint. Anyways.
This is like some people's nightmare.
Yeah, that's why I've made some extracts of what they. So, yeah. I mean, the schema for use probably isn't very interesting unless you're actually implementing stuff yourself. So, but it's JSON-like, and we expect that everyone don't post that many observations at the same time. So, we include lots of metadata with the single observations, and when you put them into the queue, they come out like, okay. So on the right here is the WIS2 compliant stream. Well, you can see my temp topic is not compliant WIS2, but that's configurable later. But this isn't very handy for looking at so
those are WIS2 notification messages.
Yes.
Cool.
And it self-references the API. So here you can see we have generated the URL for getting that time series from ESOH, or the time series from that station in this case.
Cool. And because you're only caching 24 hours, you don't have any time period in the query in the API.
This just returns the entire all of it, and then the one on the top is latest one. Yeah. Also the time period is configurable. You can store however much you want, as long as your Postgres instance has enough storage, and the table doesn't get too long. Yeah, we also have our own queue that's a bit more handy, so you can actually.
Can I just the thing on the notification message there is your link to Oscar. It says canonical.
Yeah, this is just we haven't finalized every part of the.
Yeah.
But the link to Oscar in the actual metadata for the station is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tomorrow morning I'll tell you more about the notification messages, and then I'll show you how to link directly to stations.
Yes.
And station, and you should be using rel equals station to link
to
a particular.
So in this time series for this time series metadata, we have the correct link to the correct station if it exists. We don't actually check if the station exists, because we hope you give us real stations.
Yeah.
So we just assume that the station is not.
But I guess the point was that every is long.
Yes. So when we get, so Istvan has written the buffer encoder as well, but that's not implemented in. We're currently packaging as the Python package, and so it's not implemented in the ESOH software until the next version. But this will be for the core data. This will be a link that provides you a buffer file with this same observation. And in our own MQTT, we have sorted it a bit differently since we don't have to take into account all the other formats. So here you can actually filter using the topics in MQTT to get, say, if you want all the wind speeds from Norway, you could do that by filtering on this, replacing this station ID with a hashtag, and you'll get all the wind speeds from Norway. Anyways, I have opened the API for everyone, so if you have any buffer files, you could try this afterwards, see if we can get the file into our local system here at Met.
Anyone having a
Well, you can have time to find it if you want to. Throw us in a message to someone who has access to some buffer files, or we can just find them on GTS, I guess. Yeah. So that's just how that's how easy it should be to ingest your buffer files that you send on GTS today. If we have a quick look at what this actually looks like in the EDR API, I have somewhere, that's not right. This is all locations, yeah. So if we go to, so these are two stations from yesterday that we put data into. And we could also get in and have a look at this time series ID. Okay, I think we have one more buffer file that we created yesterday.
So this was actually ingested after the workshop started. So now we have Canada in.
Yeah, so I just
huge,
ingest another buffer file from that container station from Canada. And now they're also in, and they're also available in the MQTT stream if you want to have a look at that. Maybe. Yeah. So that's same as it should be, but we don't have that many users yet. So we haven't found many issues with the DTS data we have picked up from Europe, and it should be working fine. But as with everything with software, it probably will break at some point.
Okay, so what you're displaying here is just a GeoJSON viewer?
Yes, this is the locations endpoint. This is just the mappy view of the locations endpoint. Yeah.
Because each location gives you a GeoJSON feature.
Yes.
Yeah.
So locations is GeoJSON features. This contains information about all the parameter names that's available from each station.
Yeah.
And here we can see we actually get the Oslo link to the station.
It's the same, similar to what I put up there.
Yeah. And here we are also now referencing to the single time series for this single standard name for this observation, and you can actually now browse it like a human to get this data out if you would like. Okay. We also, as mentioned earlier, we have this IoT project for the main goal of the project is doing quality control on IoT data, but we use ESOH to store and access all the observations. And today we have data from InfoClimat in France. That's and we ingest NetAtmo data. So NetAtmo data, of course, is not available in buffer format. So here, what is this? Yeah, I don't remember how many lines of code it took me to actually convert the NetAtmo. Yeah, it's about 300 lines of code to convert the NetAtmo data from their JSON format into our format, and then ingest them into the ESOH system using the JSON format we have specified in the OpenAPI spec. We can have a quick look at this. What's that? Okay, great. It's 1 minute until the next run of the yeah. So there's a lot of NetApp observations. And you can see, yeah, it's almost a bit too much. Yeah, it's about 1.6 million observations every 10 minutes.
So this is, so yesterday we were having a conversation about core versus recommended.
Yes.
And kind of meeting the expectations of the data users. So if I found all that on a core channel.
Yeah, this obviously won't be core data.
Yeah.
So here we have just taken ESOH software and hosted it. We build Docker images that's available on GitHub. We just pull them and host them somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we use that for this IoT project to have a software to just store our observations and have an API that makes them available for the quality control software. And this is one tiny Docker Compose file running, just defines the services and they start running.
That's portable software.
Yes,
Yeah.
it should be. The documentation is probably a lot easier for us to read. So far, we haven't had many external users trying to use it yet. So, but tomorrow we'll go through setting up using Docker Compose, how we did it for this in this case.
Just a question on the NetApp data.
Yeah.
You've got nearly as many topics as you have data. What's the topic structure that you're using?
Yeah, so it's the same as the other. So it's here it's based on the country it's from, and then the data source.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the station IDs. These are a fake. Since we have the NetApp data is anonymized, we just make a station ID based on the location. So they're consistent for every data, every time we pull data.
So one topic per location.
With this one topic per standard name per location. So here is the top, right? Here's the topic, final tree of topics. So here you can see the topic for this message.
Okay.
This way you can actually use the filtering in MQTT to just get the observations you want. So here you could just do #/surface air pressure, and we only get surface air pressure.
Yeah. In WIS2 notifications, we have a more full-screen topic.
Yes. So we looked at those, and that probably works fine if you want to share data. But since this was for just observations, we just made another one. So we have two queues running at the same time.
Yeah. So it's a different solution for a different purpose.
Exactly.
In WIS2, we would put the parameter in the message.
Yes.
And then you do client-side filtering at that point.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way to cut it, but just want people to realize that there are two different ways.
Yes. That's why if you look at that's why there is one topic that's just not set right, but this would be mostly the same in the same topic, and there will be lots of updates to the same topic. And here is case like this. No, that's I can't see that.
This is also related to the question of sliding the data, because here you can do server side filtering. In this tool you have to deal with each notification.
True, but it's really difficult to do server-side filtering on a topic when they're random names.
Yes, exactly. So that's the thing. We also in the ingest here, we try to convert every observed properties and units to the same. So we only store stuff if they are either convertible as specified in the ingester, or then we just reject them. So every observation from wherever they are in Europe, in this case, should have the same unit and same scale. So you can just create the bounding box for in the middle of Europe and get 5 different countries in your bounding box, and all the observations you get back should be in the same scale, in the same unit, with the same observatory.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was talking about the potential problem that 2 different agencies would encode their basically the same time series so observations into seemingly different parameters, and wind is particularly sparks my interest. For instance, like I always I'm in charge of this building a little bit of a data model for all the quantities that extend just the meteorological realm. For instance, the sea current on different levels, and it's measured as a profile, and we're trying to come up with the overlapping concepts that would be able to grasp all those different parameters. It's hard for me to justify wind speed of gust as a separate parameter, because in my world this is just a method max of parameter wind. You know, like 10 minutes. I didn't even think about creating the wind speed of gust as a separate quantity. If there are perfectly fine solution of having a wind speed as a separate time series, marked with metadata 10 minutes method max.
I think the gust method is a bit more complex because on the 10-minute mean value, you measure the gliding 10-minute mean, while in gust you take the 3 last measurements, so 3-second measurements, and make the highest one of those in a period, and that's the gust. So it's not a 10-minute mean.
So
what about 10-minute max?
What I would say is that in the WMO measurement manual, there's some really complicated stuff about how gust is actually done. So as meteorologists, they break it out as a separate parameter.
So it's just like an exception to the rule, or?
Oh, it's a different parameter actually, because but the max middle wind. That's what you measure. You take the maximum value of the mean wind in your period, and that's true. So, yeah, but the gust is a different measurement, so that's total.
So I mean, arguably it'd be easy to do that with a CF cell method. So you'd say wind speed, and then the cell method would be 10-minute interval and then max during that thing. You could explain it that way, but gust is a little bit more specific. So it treats it like an exception.
Okay, okay, I see. And the direction of the gust is this thing?
It's the same, but they often don't look at the instant direction. It's the variation of direction within a period, for example.
It's like trying to draw parallels to logical measurements. Means that we also measure the maximum in 10 minutes. In much every observed measurable, but nobody's talking about the gust of discharge. You know, it's a silly.
It doesn't match. Yeah.
Well, What one could argue that like the 10-minute max is also a gust of discharge, but nobody's specifying this as a separate parameter. If you provide this information as a like statistical method max.
We handle that as a separate parameter as well, because we have the maximum wind within the period. So, yeah, but that's we can talk about that in the.
One would have to really know the background of. Is this definition that you were talking about, like why this is exception? Is it they have to know the EC codes and WMO standards for it, or can you just find it in this mockup?
You will find a definition in the mockup, I believe.
Okay,
So it's but it's based. The lookup service is also based on the definitions written by VMO
Yeah, because
100 years ago. So it's
browsing through those lookup vocabulary, like this nerf
Yeah.
vocabulary. Yeah, the first instinct is for me like there are some entries missing in order for us to fully convert everything
Yeah.
into this vocabulary. But maybe just
But I think in the CF standard names you will find the GUST values, and that's that they are following the definition that's Jeremy's mentioned. So
yeah, that's something. It's really methodologically based, or
Yeah.
methodologically based, and EDR on the other side is like environmental. It should cover probably more than just methodology and climate.
yeah, but you could probably add a lot of data there that's
Yeah.
on the limit of what we. So I think that the meta-ocean definitions is more like. What is called that?
So obviously in OGC there's a hydrology domain working group as well.
Yeah.
And so they would maybe have different control vocabulary sets. Just to, as a where can you look to see the definitions in the WMO codes registry, which is I've got the link in here. I just searched for gust and found the quantity kind maximum wind speed gust or maximum wind gust. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can look in.
Also, when developing these things that we said, you have to remember, especially in the case of HVD, that the users are not from our field.
Yeah.
So even if something can be described with an aggregation period, and it's people are looking for drugs, they need to find it somehow without reading the WMO manual about the drugs.
Oh, come on, everybody.
There's no such thing as RTF.
But we have had a lot of good discussions in the development team regarding this, because this is not necessarily forecasters or observation people. So we have had these discussions. And
I think this parameter question it's unsolved
Yeah.
in the meteorological comment. There's a CF conversions, but it doesn't cover the whole thing. So
No.
that's why there's a huge amount of ways when people implement these things. So it's almost impossible to use everything. No,
But
it is actually.
one of our main goals in ESOH has been to comply with the tools that the meteorologists use, and they use the gusts and the meteorological parameters. So,
So I think that for us at DMI, I think integrating with ESO ingests, we can demonstrate to the ones who are not experts in repair and everything how it all works. Like subscribe to the applications and all that stuff, and see it in the Explorer and these kind of things. So do I start integrating with the API that ESO.met? No.
That's just our dev instance that's running the latest version today. So I just open it to the internet so you can actually go and then see how it works yourself.
Yeah, because I noticed that MeteoGate, observations MeteoGate /
so, yeah.
ingest is.
Yes, so that's whitelisted for now, I think. Since there's not been really haven't been much user engagement yet. Yeah, so you probably have not your. So usually we whitelist the NAT address of your institute so you can access the ingest.
The IP.
Yeah, so we can just take this after the meeting. But if you want to actually start ingesting data to the MeteoGate, just send, I guess, me or Vega an email, and we'll get you set up. And yeah,
The goal of this, one of the goals was to have
yeah.
data there. So
But the instance I have linked to today is the newest version that's going to be rolled out on the production when it's been tested a bit. So
Makes sense to start with that one.
yeah, if it works there,
Right, we figure out.
yeah, if it works there, it should just work on the MeteoGate instance as well. Yes. Yeah. Well, there's also a test instance running in MeteoGate in the EWC. So I guess we should get people access to both, so you can test your ingest before you go to the live system. Yeah.
But in the EVC version, could we whitelist, or do DDV has to do that?
I think I've been given access at some point, but it's so long since I used it that I don't remember. But
yeah, but if it's okay to use the test version for now,
yeah.
Also, does the MQTT broker whitelisting as well? Or is it open?
Maybe I asked Stefan to make it read-only for all IPs, but I don't know if he's done that or not.
I mean, the MeteoGate is.
Yeah, the MeteoGate. Yeah, I asked him to make it read-only for everyone, but I don't know if that's been done or
I
not.
wasn't able to connect.
No, I haven't tested it either.
I'm actually in there on my network, but still on.
Yeah, so there's probably some whitelisting there as well. But I did ask him to just make it public. This is the.
And you saw the connection.
Yeah. No, me neither.
It's a user and the password.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, from this we can. I'll send a message to Stefan. Yeah, I can just send you the link in the chat in a minute. If I cannot copy it, no. Let's see. So get it. Where's the meeting? There it is. So it's uses WebSockets just to have less issues with firewalls and stuff. Usually, MQTT protocol goes over a different port. So so we expose it to WebSockets just to give users less issues with the institute firewalls.
And the username and password.
Yes, I asked Stefan to make it just open, and if that hasn't happened, I'll have to send him a message. I guess we can do that later when I'm not streaming it to entire world. Yeah. Does this work? I think so. No. Let's go. Yeah. But everyone's able to reach the API I sent link to, right? API ESOH. Yeah.
Can you put it in the chat? Yeah?
I think again, yeah. I think I already sent it, but. See, right.
I think for my success criteria, then I'm quite happy that that's into this Norway instance of ESOH.
You still count it as a set. Okay, yeah. Then it's up to you, Peter, to how you could give the workshop a success if you are able to upload the buffer from Denmark.
I think we'll go with the JSON. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's even better.
There's less overhead for that, if you use JSON as well.
There's overhead. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So we use Pydantic to verify the ingest for both buffer and the JSON endpoint.
Yeah, I'll consume database.
Yes. So internally,
We don't want to.
Yeah, okay.
Buffer, we just,
yeah. But a lot of people, you probably just have GTS buffer files laying around, and they can just send them there as well if they want to ingest data to the ESOH system or the MeteoGate instance.
The goal for this is get the supplement over there. So that it's just the same stuff that you send to GPS. Then
Yeah, but it's a start, right, to get people to put the data there.
but then in QCC for the test instance.
Yeah. I'll get it. I don't remember off the top of my head where it is, but I'll get you the info for that as well. Yeah, I think my So it's fairly easy to deploy and as well if you want to use it for any other stuff. And at this point, it can handle. I think we can ingest about 3 million observations every 10 minutes.
Just can you put the username and password
For this queue?
For that queue?
I will. I'll find it. Or hopefully I can just make it. I'll just stop sharing if.
Yes, if you log off the meeting and do that on the side. Is there any questions from the video? Easy to fall into the meeting room. Discussions?
I guess we can have a quick break, and then we can. There's not really much more to show unless you have questions.
No questions coming up from online yet.
Was that data available somewhere as an example?
I haven't since it's proprietary data. I haven't shared it anywhere, and also the IoT instance is password protected. But if we can find a way to share it without making it public, I think that's fine, right?
But it doesn't expose any data.
No, but
as an example for the script that uploads data to the
yeah.
I think
That's fine. Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to be that. First, it would be maybe useful to have some examples.
Yes, I can make a repository on the EUMETNET GitHub and just post the scripts there. Don't judge too harshly, and don't. There's not too many comments since it's not in production, and we haven't really too much time into making it production code.
So could you say some words about how we have ingested data from MeteoGate through the
well, yeah, we don't also use a JSON endpoint, so we actually have a Kafka stream internally that deliver all our observations to whatever services needs them in-house. So we just consume our Kafka stream, convert that from the strange old XML format to the JSON as well, and then ingest the JSON. So in some cases, the observations are available quicker in ESOH instance than it is on our own system for observations.
Based on a discussion that we had in a break. So it's,
yeah.
You mentioned that you used Kafka, so it's.
I have a single tiny box VM running in our infrastructure that just listens to the broker correct queue on the Kafka broker, and then it just sends the HTTP request with the body of all the. Yeah, generate the payload by converting the XML format to the correct JSON input for ESOH, and then I just post those to the ingest API. No, so the way the ingest takes all the messages and validates that they're correct, and the ingest is the one that publishes to MQTT. So I post the messages, all our observations, to the ingest API. I grab the payload of the queue and then convert it, and then I post them to the ingest API. Yeah.
Do you need to build a JSON structure?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the thing that we do with all the data. So even the buffer files, we actually read the files and then convert it to JSON and ingest. So everything is ingested by the same ingest API.
This needs to be the JSON itself. This is most of the Kafka message.
No, the Kafka messages that internally at Met Norway, we get Kafka messages that's XML formatted. So I'm writing a script that converts that to the JSON format that ESOH uses, and then just post those messages to the ingest API. So I have a small script running between the Kafka queue and the ingest that just does that conversion and then pushes those to.
And the reason that we did this was that we had this old system that ran Kafka, and we wanted to add on to that system and not trying to furnish the whole value chain. That's I guess it's the same problem that you have. So yeah. So this could be a solution to look at the script that we have used and the solution that we have used. And
yeah.
And if you listen to the demonstration tomorrow on how to set up the system in-house, then you will probably see that everything that you asked me about in the break, this will be able. You could be able to set up this in your NMS, fulfilling both EDR APIs and WIS2 compliance in one box. So it's
so there's like 50 minutes until the end of the ESOH session.
Yeah.
Do you want to try get people to add more data into the ingest server, or do you want to get people to query the API on the end? So we got some time today.
Yeah. So we can, if people have access to any files that would like to try and ingest, we can have a break and you see if we can grab those files.
I would vote for the other suggestion.
Yeah.
So trying to retrieve some data from them.
Yeah. Well, we can of course just do both. If someone wants to try and ingest some data and some people want to try and
trying to wrap my head around the parameters and how they play into the very API, especially looking from the these metadata, the time integration functions like point. It's supposed to represent like instantaneous measurement at the very time, right? Regardless. So in that sense, this period just refers to when the next point is to be expected, right? Next point data. For instance, like point measurement of 10 minutes data is instantaneous measurements every 10 minutes, right? No.
It's a gliding mean value.
It's gliding mean.
Yeah. So it takes.
Let's see.
For every minute, it takes the 10 last minutes and makes a mean of it. And the observation is the final, or the latest.
How the heck is users supposed to do that?
No, they can't.
That's a good question.
That's the problem with giving them metrological data.
Units, it's very helpful. The data I learned about this standard for units, and the NERF is very welcome standardization tool. But the time aggregation functions is just like it's a string. Like this is a reference. It probably helps to refer users to some established standards to know what to mean and at least point what it's supposed to represent. Like if the others are pretty self-explanatory, point is a bit confusing.
Each man has his hand raised. Can't see it.
Oh. Is on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just for the wind gust encoding, one note. When the buffer files encodes the following sequence, I wrote in the chat. This is a wind gust direction. We can encode this wind gust from direction CF name. But the most important thing, this is not just the wind gust direction, the wind gust direction and the time period of the gust is very important. We have to handle same summon. together for the two values, the time period and the wind gust. But it's easy to encode this. Yes, just one. This was the note back to the wind gust values.
Thank you.
I think this, this parameter thing is my pet peeve because for most users, especially outside of our field, the details of the measurements doesn't matter. And if you have to dig through a lot of documentation in order to find out that the 2 meter temperature is actually aggregation of certain period and certain method, very difficult. So one would think that 2 meter temperature is easy, it's defined, but it's not. It's very loosely defined by the WMO. The height of the measurement can be within certain limits, and also the time is not fixed. So if you just refer to the 2 meter temperature with these different factors like the temperature and the period and the height and the aggregation method, most countries do it a little bit different, so you end up with a lot of different parameter names. But in the end, most users just want 2 meter temperature, regardless if it's a 1 minute mean value or something else.
Most people just want temperature. They don't care if it's 2 meters or 1.4 meters.
I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah, but that's a very editorial compromise debate, and that's pretty much my main not issue, but question with use. Should we be as exact as possible, or should we be as clear as possible, or like as easy to use as possible? You know, like it's just like temperature meters, forget about it. And should we say, oh, for this station, this is aggregated over 6 minutes, not over 4 minutes, and we should really specify this, and then let users decide what to do with it, or like, okay, I'm gonna treat this all the same. What's the best practices in using this?
I think it's a little bit two different party conflicting use cases. So for the HVD, it's a general public and other sectors, and I think it's targeted, so it has to be quite simple. And but then there are use cases where you need the exact details of the measurement. So ideally, you should have both. But
I think we discussed this exactly in the profile meeting, and what we landed on there was that it was kind of impossible to do in one collection. So for the ingestion part, you should add as much metadata as you can, so you can do it correctly. But then for the simple use case, as I just want temperature, we actually today, and I think we agree, the only way to solve it now is to have a separate collection. We have observations, which gives you all the details, and then you can have a separate collection.
Observations for dummies.
Yes.
Yes.
Which then has to make decisions, because then it has to aggregate and say that, okay, temperature measured at 1.4 and 1.7 are all just the same thing, and you will not give the details. You will show up as one parameter using the standard name, and that will be for the user. You will never know the details.
And ESOH is aimed to be like observations for dummies, or
It's both.
This is mostly more for expert users, I would say, in this case, right? But you can do it's easier to start making the complex one and then put something in front of it to make it for dummies.
in EDA, there's a thing called custom dimensions, so that partly solves the problem. So you can still do filtering based on different factors, but you can see it's relatively simple.
Because
And I think that's the reality, but that's not what the API currently
So
defines.
the spec requires you to have the parameter name as a filter, but we don't recommend using it because there's too much information baked into this one field. I don't show. If you go to the docs for that, we can look at it after. If we have a break now, I guess we can. But we have different way of filtering on each property
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would really at some point, like officially or like,
Yeah.
during some
No.
spare time, I would love to be guided through the to simulate myself as a like, user.
Yeah.
Trying to
Maybe we can demonstrate it also through the geometry, through the observation on ESOH.
Can we use GeoWeb to work through? Can we use GeoWeb to work through the EDR endpoint for ESOH?
I don't know how people are used to looking at. I usually just browse the Swagger docs and then test from there. But I don't know how well it works in GeoWeb yet. Is it functional?
I mean, Mikko, do you want to
Yeah.
share your screen? Do you want to share your screen?
No, do we have that or?
Should we take a 10-minute break and